I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. A Democrat is going to be elected in 2028. You know that. I know that. It's going to be a Democratic House. It's going to be a Democratic Senate. And they're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. That's going to happen to you.
James Carville, it's not clear whether he is doing LSD in major doses or just micro doses, but he's got a very healthy fantasy life, fueled with the help of Timothy Leary and, you know, the old school lysergic acid. He's tripping, as they say. Well, a very good and happy Monday to you, and welcome back once again. We are at 888-630-9625. All kinds of hijinks that the Democrats and the news media are up to. The front page of the Washington Times today, a newspaper of record here in Washington, D.C., and the lead story is Elites Kept Courting Convicted Epstein. Media pals tipped him off to bad press. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? And you know why the Democrats were tipping off Jeffrey Epstein? Because they've been in it up to their what, Michael? We'll just say up to their eyeballs. That's higher anyway. President Trump may have ditched his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but other power figures and media elite stuck by him, a trove of new emails revealed. A batch of more than 20,000 documents from the quote-unquote Epstein files, released Wednesday by a House committee, showed that the disgraced financier had relationships with powerful members of the media and financial world, even with mounting evidence that he had victimized underage girls. And the Democrats, overwhelmingly, they just kind of shrug and say, what is underage? Come on. Mr. Trump had long cut off ties with Epstein, who was convicted in 2008 of soliciting prostitution from a minor. But influential people and members of the media elite continued to give and seek advice and friendship from Epstein, and even tipped him off to bad publicity related to his sex abuse scandal. In 2017, the New York Times financial reporter Landon Thomas Jr. He's Landon Thomas Jr. His father was Landon Thomas Sr. He's with the New York Times, offered to introduce Jeffrey Epstein to one of the most powerful men in banking and sought Epstein's investment advice. Well, he also gave Epstein a heads up that a book author was digging around for dirt on the billionaire hedge fund manager as he faced media scrutiny over sex abuse allegations. He seems very interested in your relationship with the news media, Mr. Thomas of the New York Times said of investment reporter John Connolly, who later authored a book about Epstein's sex abuse. You see? I told him you were a hell of a guy. See, he's the New York Times reporter A goes to New York Times reporter B and says, I told him you're a hell of a guy. Because, he's a New York Times reporter, and they're all on the same page. They're all in it together, aren't they? Lawrence H. Summers, Treasury Secretary in the Clinton administration and director of the National Economic Council in the Obama White House, complained to him about his own girlfriend troubles months before Epstein's arrest on sex trafficking charges. Meanwhile, best-selling author Michael Wolff shared with Epstein his insights into Mr. Trump and the terms of his lucrative book deal while seeking introductions to his powerful associates. So this Wolff guy has written slanderously about Donald Trump for years now, but he's trying to get into bed with Jeffrey Epstein and all that implies, because the Democrat Party, aren't they amazing? And the news media, they're all obsessed about the Epstein files. And I've got to say, I believe that the Democrats are going to be all over these things, up the yin-yang, if I may use that phrasing in this context. Isn't that amazing? Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said Sunday that President Trump cut political ties with her because she's pushing for the release of the Epstein files. That's a lot of hooey. And then yesterday, Sunday, President Trump came out very publicly saying, okay, the Republicans in Congress ought to release all of the Epstein files that they have, and that'll be real good. Now, with that said, let's go to some audio, because President Trump yesterday, he was in Palm Beach at his $500 million, billion-dollar mansion, Mar-a-Lago. Never mind that. When he's coming home, he stopped at the airport before getting on Air Force One to talk to reporters, which he does with great enthusiasm. And there's a reporter there, and we still can't quite figure out who it was. It's a woman. There's a lot of conjecture online. I think it might be this lady from CBS News who covers the White House for CBS News. But President Trump and this reporter lady, who may or may not be the CBS News reporter, on the tarmac in Florida yesterday talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And listen to the reporter, and President Trump's having none of it.
Mr. President, Representative Massey says he's concerned that the Epstein probe you are calling for could be a smokescreen to block the release of more files. Is that the case?
Well, I don't want to talk about it because fake news like you're a terrible reporter, and fake news like you, they just keep bringing that up to deflect from the tremendous success of the Trump administration. So a guy like Massey, his poll numbers are showing he's at 6% approval rating right now. And we call him Rand Paul Jr. because he never votes for the Republican Party. So they're using Jeffrey Epstein as a deflection from the tremendous success that we're having as a party.
Deflection, got that deflection. A terrible reporter like you. And Massey, Republican member of the House, who's not working and playing well with the Trump White House or other Republicans at this point in time, and President Trump having none of it. And you're a terrible reporter. I love that he calls out the reporters right there on the spot as the questions are being asked. That's a lot of fun. And one of these days they're going to have to do what I've been advising for a long time, and that is show a reel of video in the White House briefing room of one network lying about everything 50 times in a row, and then say, and because of that, we're going to pull your White House press credentials, and you're no longer authorized to come cover the White House because you've proven to be something other than a news organization. I think that that would be a good thing. But again, President Trump saying, yeah, it's time. Okay, Republicans, it's time to hand over the whatever Epstein, these files. And honestly, it should have been done through the Justice Department or somewhere. Should have been done already. And then let the chips fall where they may. And again, the Democrats have had access to these 20-something thousand documents that the House Oversight Committee has, and the Republicans have access. The Democrats have access. The Democrats selectively leaked a couple of very heavily redacted emails because they did a word search and they found Trump's name. And there's nothing incriminating in there, but they're going to pretend that there's something incriminating because his name was used in 3 emails or 2 emails out of 23,000 pages of emails. And you know how many Democrat names are going to be in there? It's going to be crazy, just crazy. Now, also one of the stories percolating over the weekend, the news media people who have, and I was just reading some from the Washington Times, the wonderful Washington Times, about the New York Times people trying to, get into the sleeping bag with Jeffrey Epstein. And they're very excited about it. And their New York Times giving him tips and heads up and trying to spin, even inside the New York Times, that Jeffrey Epstein's a great guy, wink, wink. And isn't that amazing? And all the media, we played Katie Couric last week, an interview going back and forth where every question was a nail Trump, right? And Jeffrey Epstein this, Jeffrey, because they're all obsessed over Jeffrey Epstein and I honestly think when everything is very public, and I hope it does become very public for the perpetrators and all the supporters, there are a lot of them in supporting roles, no doubt about it. But Katie Couric was attacking him last week. Then this video surfaced over the weekend from about 2 years ago, 2023. Katie Couric talking about what fun she had going to a big Jeffrey Epstein party. And George Stephanopoulos was there, and Prince Andrew from England was there. And Katie Couric, a trained reporter that she is, the eagle-eyed reporter that she is, had no idea what's going on in her. But here's Katie Couric from 2023. The video emerged over the weekend.
I was invited to go to this dinner at Jeffrey Epstein's house, And George Stephanopoulos
Which
was
one?
going to be there, and it was right before Kate and William got married. And I thought, oh, I better go because it was in honor of Prince Andrew. And I thought, I better schmooze Prince Andrew. If George is, I need to get in there.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about Jeffrey Epstein.
Didn't
at the
know
time.
anything.
And it was super weird. What can I say? And the person I was with said, did you notice how young the girls were who were taking the coats? And I said, I really didn't. But, of course, later we found out everything about him.
That's
but
amazing.
yeah, I was invited to it, and
that's
I should have done
amazing.
a little more research. But a
You
lot
should
of
have
the
done a
stuff
little more
about him
research.
hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, a lot of it hadn't come out yet. Oh, sorry, 2011. That was 2011. That she went to the party. That video where she told the story was a year and a half, 2 years ago, 2023. Oh, yeah, I didn't know anything about him. Really? Because you follow the news like anybody in a coma in a mental institution in Manhattan? Yeah, never heard of the guy. Gosh, party. George she uses George Stephanopoulos as like a gateway drug. I heard he was going to be there. That makes it okay. And Kate and William were going to be getting married, and I had to go. Yeah, and who doesn't know more about Kate and William getting married than Jeffrey Epstein, because that makes sense, at his house, at his like $85 million 6-story townhouse in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. I assume, rather than in Palm Beach, where he's got another, tens of millions of dollars, used to have. Then he hanged himself, allegedly, with a bed sheet. And isn't that amazing? Man, oh, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. And you know what? This Epstein thing is a big change the subject effort by the Democrats and their corrupt media bootlicks. But man, I'm telling you, this whole Obamacare thing, the government shutdown that we just went through and the giant lies the Democrats are telling, what they all are traceable back to is Obamacare, which you may recall, the Washington Post confessed a few weeks ago, was never actually affordable. And the big lie that these people are telling now is that, well, our healthcare system is broken. It needs to be fixed. Well, you guys broke it. It's called Obamacare. And now you're lying and lying and lying about it. And they just make this lie bigger than the last lie, figuring that it'll all come out in the end because the corrupt news media will bail them out again and again. It's extraordinary, just extraordinary. All right, Michael, let's grab a phone call. What do you say? Let's go to Chris, calling from Marshall, Virginia. Christopher, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, good afternoon, sir. Good morning, rather. Hey, I'll tell you one thing about that last penny. I guarantee you it ain't going to sell for $5.99, is it?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I was talking earlier for people that weren't here that there are reports now that the last penny minted by the U.S. Mint about a week ago or so, people are looking to pay $5 million American dollars for the last penny.
But I tell you, I want to run off a small litany of experiences. We've got the Pound Me Too movement. We've got Ashley Madison's file. We've got way back in 2008 when Facebook inadvertently released all the messenger messages on the main page of Facebook, and people went cray-cray. We had the Panama Papers. We had all the Project Veritas exposés, and we had all of the individual Twitter files. And really, very, very few, other than a couple of divorces here and there were no consequences. What does the general public expect to gain? And I am all for it. Disclose everything in the Epstein files, all of them.
Yep.
But do we really think there's going to be any consequences to it other than we're going to look at each other and go, look who's on that list, and nothing is going to happen?
Well, I know the answer to that, actually. And for Republicans, the media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, look for extreme consequences. And for themselves, they look to change the subject. And it's worked for them for decades now, for years and years and years. But you're right, of course. We live in a consequence-free society in so many ways that it is extraordinary. But and I'm also with you, Chris. Just release everything. And if they're Republicans who are bad guys, then expose them. If they're and that includes Donald Trump, but that's already been litigated and examined. They've searched everything for Donald Trump. They've released what they have on Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and there's nothing there. But release everything, because
may I make one point about statehood that real quick? I don't know how much time I've got, but I maintain I've got a theory about that, and it's not. The left isn't. They don't care about extra senators because they've proven they're going to cheat around the system anyway. What they want with an additional state is to make irrelevant the two main icons of our nation. One is our flag, and the other is our anthem. As soon as we get a 51st state, they're going to change both, and that's what I maintain they want statehood for.
That's fun. And D.C., and I've lived in D.C. for more than 30 years. D.C. should not be a state for about 25 different reasons, starting with the Constitution, of course. Amazing stuff. All right, Chris, great call, great stuff. Thank you very much. Did you know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally available to all of us? And it builds on the incredible success of the previous two generations, which already earned thousands of five-star reviews and became a bestseller in no time. But the new Thunderstorm uses two technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air that your family breathes. It also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and all kinds of nastiness from the air that you breathe, and it gets rid of any odor, all with no filters to have to buy and replace again and again like a lot of air filters. Now, the Thunderstorm will get rid of any stinky smell, as I said, guaranteed. Odors from litter boxes and trash cans, cigarette smoke, liberal protesters, musty basements. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. Put one on every floor, put one in the basement, put one in the teenager's room, put one in the kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. You just have to go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Thunderstorms. Make great gifts, too. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. All right, yes, and we've got, I got to tell you, the government shutdown and health care and Obamacare coming up. Yeah, Katie Couric went to this very exclusive, small dinner, intimate dinner at the Jeffrey Epstein New York townhouse, which is an unbelievable palace, but never mind that. In 2010, she didn't know anything about it, she said. That was 17 months after Jeffrey Epstein had been released from prison in Florida after he served a 13-month sentence for soliciting prostitution. And Chelsea Handler was there, and George Stephanopoulos. And wait, Woody Allen was there. And he has well-known proclivities in the same area, doesn't he? Yes, Woody Allen. Woody Allen was at the party with Katie Couric and George Stephanopoulos. Famous fixation on underage females, Woody Allen, for a long, long time. Let's open this can of worms. Let's do it. You know, the Democrats will go through and they'll search for Trump's name and they'll then redact everything around the 4 words that they think will be most incriminating, and they'll make sure that no Democrat is mentioned ever because they're mentally ill and dishonest, very dishonest people. Now, there's another story, a side story here. The great and wonderful Miranda Devine at the New York Post, who wrote all about so capably and deftly and expertly about the Hunter Biden laptop, and 10% goes to the big guy. And Tony Bobulinski, remember Tony Bobulinski? It's funny, Tony Bobulinski didn't get famous, didn't become a household name, but George Floyd did. Career criminal junkie, died of heart failure while resisting arrest after passing counterfeit bills to an immigrant man trying to make a living in America, the Democrat Party. But Miranda Devine has a piece out now on Thomas Crooks, Who is Thomas Crooks? Thomas Crooks is the Democrat that shot President Trump through the ear with a rifle, a sniper, in Butler, Pennsylvania at the gathering there. And Miranda Devine reports now that the failed Trump shooter, Thomas Crooks, I would say would-be assassin. Shooter is like a kamikaze that you get at a bar. That's a little drink in a shot glass. Failed Trump shooter Thomas Crooks described himself with the pronouns they, them. He was a they, them. He wanted to be a tranny. He was gender dysphoric. On the platform Deviant Art. He's on the platform Deviant Art, and that's the name of the platform online. And he identified himself, I'm they, them. I use they, them, which is tranny, transgender, cross-dressing, Democrat stuff. Accounts linked to Crooks, Thomas Crooks, accounts linked to Thomas Crooks suggest that he had an obsession with scantily clad cartoon characters sporting muscle-bound male bodies and female heads. Female heads. The Democrats are very unwell. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. And didn't Katie Couric mention at the Epstein house that they had all kinds of body part art? I think we know what that means, right? And she didn't notice anything. Did she know? Because Prince Andrew, he's basically been kicked out of the royal family because of his pedophilia and the Jeffrey Epstein stuff and all that. But George Stephanopoulos said, I barely talked to him. I just went to his house and stole some mints and left. But really wanted to meet the prince because suck up, complete suck up. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, so Prince Andrew was there at Epstein's house with George Stephanopoulos and Katie Couric and Woody Allen, right? I bet Woody Allen was the last to leave. What do you think? I'm thinking that's probably the case. Amazing stuff. And now President Trump saying, and this is what he's saying, the headline is, nothing to hide. Trump urges Republicans to release Epstein files after some GOP lawmakers fell into Dem trap. Now, the president posted on Truth Social, his own social media platform, because the fascists banned him from Twitter and Facebook. You remember that? Because that's what fascists do. And the left, Adolf Hitler's party, was the Socialist Workers' Party, but never mind that, of Germany. President Trump said, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. I heard the news media today saying, President Trump says he has nothing to hide. No, actually, he said, we have nothing to hide. All Republicans have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrats' shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. He said, I don't care in all capital letters. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability. We are winning big. Our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing. I think Jimmy Carter had higher inflation, but maybe that's just interest rates. Bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars of investments into America, a record, he said. The rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens. Democrats want more criminals and more criminal illegal aliens. Ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more, President wrote. But the start is, release the Epstein documents, right? Byron York, who is an actual news reporter here in Washington and a high IQ individual. He's got a Twitter account, an X account. And Byron York tweeting over the weekend, he said, there was one main villain, talking about the Epstein thing and all of that. Byron York writes, there was one main villain and one secondary villain in the story. And by the end of 2021, the main villain was dead, Jeffrey Epstein. The other was convicted on federal sex trafficking charges, Ghislaine Maxwell. For those of you obsessed with Trump, at that point, there had been no Epstein-Trump contact for 17 years. There weren't going to be any more convictions. And more public info could have meant more embarrassment for prominent Democrats like Clinton, Summers, and others. It's not hard to explain the Biden administration's inaction. They're all, listen, I love this, they're all pedos, meaning pedophiles, wing of MAGA had different ideas, meaning that, Trump supporters saying, all the Democrats are pedophiles, let's just release all the documents. And now, of course, Democrats have picked up the issue with a passion because they hope it will damage Trump. And that's the whole thing with the Democrats. They just want to destroy and steal political power. But the Biden administration did not release for 4 years the Epstein files. Why? Why? Because they know that they're full of Democrats. And why didn't they release the bombshells on Trump in the Epstein documents? And the answer is because there are no bombshells on Trump. And that's why the Democrats on Capitol Hill last week turned over their heavily redacted, fragmentary sentences from 2 or 3 emails out of 22,000 or 23,000. And they didn't go anywhere. They sort of landed with a thud because they didn't say anything. Let's get them all released, because you know that the Democrats have already released in the House of Representatives the most damaging emails that they can release, and they didn't say anything. They didn't go anywhere. So that's that. But the Democrats, you know the Democrats. Wah, wah, wah. Yes, sir. And President Trump also said, as I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. All right, and it's time to move on from the Democrat hoax perpetrated by the radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party. Now let's go to President Trump. And I tell you, we've got, and also the Obamacare stuff, because President Trump's talking about the Obamacare stuff as well, and the Democrats and the big liars. Oh, yeah, and this Jack Schlossberg guy, the John F. Kennedy grandson. What a maroon this guy is, man. He's getting dumber and dumber. Isn't that amazing? All right, and so release the Epstein files and whatever they are, the emails, the documents, just release them all. I think we can handle it, whatever it is. But, the problem is that they've got the names of victims of these creepy sexual deviants, these perverts, right? And you got to redact those in 23,000 pages. Now, some of the women have come out just in the last few days, I think mostly because they think they can hurt Trump, and saying, oh, release the documents. But then people get sued when you release documents, including the government, when you release documents that have information. How about people that have been accused but are not guilty of anything and were never charged, but there might be emails that insinuate or suggest that certain people, I'll just say Michael Piercy, so there's like, hey, Michael Piercy's name is not in the Epstein documents. I'm just saying there are names in there of people who didn't do anything wrong, and if you release all the documents at once, there are a lot of lawyers who are eager to sue people, and other lawyers who are saying, whoa, you can't release these because, we have rules about releasing these things. Isn't that amazing? Now, President Trump over the weekend also talking about the government shutdown, the Schumer shutdown, the Democrat Party shutdown, depriving everybody of food and oxygen and love, because the government wasn't there to feed you and give you air and to love you. The Democrats, they are. But it turns out the Democrats just want to give trillions of dollars to insurance companies and pay them off, because that's what Obamacare was. Obamacare was one of the biggest lies the government of the United States has ever told the American people. And it's a shakedown, and it's a scam, and it's trillions and trillions out of our pockets to bail them out again and again and again. And there's no end in sight to the bailouts that the Democrats are going to demand and pound the table over, right? And President Trump was asked about this, and he knows this. All these hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars go directly to the insurance companies, and then they say, okay, now people sign up on the website, and we'll charge you less because you're paying for it out of your other pocket. And you don't know it because the government's taking it and then just adding it to the national debt because they're all crooks. And this is the Democrat Party up the yin-yang. President Trump over the weekend on the shutdown, Obamacare, the bailouts.
I've had personal talks with some Democrats. The insurance companies are making a fortune. Their stock is up over 1,000% over a short period of time. I said, why don't we just pay this money directly to the people of our country and let them buy their own health insurance? And, you know, I made that statement, and I made it a little bit cavalierly, but it sounded good. And everybody has picked it up, including Democrats.
I made it cavalierly, somewhat cavalierly, but it sounded good. And now everybody's picked up on it. Here's the left-wing Politico with the headline 6 days ago, late last week. Obamacare could collapse under Trump's new plan, policy experts say. Well, why? Because if we don't bail it out with another $1.5 trillion, then it could collapse? I think that might be a good idea. Then we could get health care like we used to have. That was great for everybody and didn't cost 5 times as much as it cost 5 times as much after Obamacare, which they ironically called the Affordable Care Act. There's a Democrat member of the House of Representatives named Ami Bera.
What I'm hearing out of my Republican colleagues is they may be open to doing something different that brings the cost of health care down. We would have to change the laws a little bit, allow you to use some of those premium or those savings to buy your premiums, create more basic health care coverage so every American can have basic coverage.
What? But you guys, and he's making it sound like, well, Republican colleagues are willing to do what we want to do. No, you're a criminal. You're holding America at gunpoint, stealing trillions. You're a third world bit of rabble. Isn't that amazing? And I'm sorry, the GOP, they're open to bringing down the cost of health care. It's what they've been trying to do since the moment you crooks passed Obamacare. And again, the Washington Post forced to admit that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable. And then it just got more and more and more expensive because Democrats did the math on this, and they're the party of James Earl Ray and every other nasty, terrible person in the history of the United States of America. Democrat Senator Tim Kaine was also on the case. We've got it because Obamacare is so good. We need another $1.5 trillion to bail it out for another 6 months, and the money's going straight to the insurance companies. President Trump saying, let's take money from tariffs, give Americans $2,000 each to help offset the cost of Obamacare. Democrat Senator Tim Kaine.
We've got to fix this. It would be political malpractice of the highest order for the House to not take up a bipartisan bill coming out of the Senate.
Yeah, we've got to fix this. What have we got to fix? And, of course, the interviewer doesn't say, you mean Obamacare is so broken and so ridiculously expensive that we can't? And of course, that never happens, the death of the follow-up question. Isn't that great? Yeah, we've got to bail it out. And they don't call it a bailout, and they don't call it, they occasionally call it subsidies. It's a massive redistribution of wealth scam that Barack Obama mentored by a communist as a teenager named Frank Marshall Davis, whose hero, of course, rules for radicals, Saul Alinsky. These are radical left-wing people who go to Ivy League schools and they come out with clean teeth and nice clothing, and they lie very effectively, and they steal everything in sight. You know, they're the left. So we've got that. Cooking on Thanksgiving is high-stakes stuff, isn't it? Couldn't be higher. Feels like one dried-out turkey can ruin it all for years to come. You'll never hear the end of it. That's why I love my Chef IQ Sense. Chef IQ Sense. This wireless cooking thermometer takes the guesswork out of holiday cooking, and the USDA says that your turkey's got to hit 165 degrees Fahrenheit in the oven to be safe. You know, your eyes can deceive, but Chef IQ ensures that you hit that perfect temperature every time. Couldn't be easier to use. You just insert the sensor into your, the turkey in this case. Tell the app what you're cooking and then sit back and relax, because Chef IQ Sense tells you when to flip, when to take the heat off, even how long to let it sit and rest before you start carving. No more open oven peeking, no more dried out turkey for you, just perfectly cooked meals every time. And it works for steaks and chicken and fish, whatever it is you're cooking all year long. You wonder how you ever cooked without it once you start using it. Plus, it's the ultimate gift. Perfect for seasoned cooks, for kitchen rookies, for everyone in between. Right now, you can get 30% off the entire website with the code PLANT at chefiq.com. That's PLANTE at chefiq.com. The promo code is PLANT. Yes, sir. Get back, Jack. Yeah, the Democrats, they got to find new weaselly language to come and say, oh, we just need trillions more. But it's not a bailout. It's not a subsidy. It's not redistribution of wealth. It's all those things. And they got to save Obamacare because it was a train wreck from day one. All right, Michael, let's go to the telephones once again. Let's go to Will, calling from Washington, D.C. on Obamacare. Will, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Hey, Will.
I could go on forever about the nightmare of being on Obamacare in D.C., but I just wanted to say that at one point, when I went to re-register for Obamacare in Washington, because I'm retired, they told me you don't make enough money to get the subsidy. You have to go on Medicaid. Well, I'm not poor. I was just spending some money from a property I sold. So anyway, I go on Medicaid. So this is the thing. I had to go on 5 websites to register. And I know that's difficult to believe, but DC Health Link, which is their massive, impenetrable bureaucracy of Washington for Obamacare.
Yeah.
But then I had to register with Medicaid. I had to go on their site and fiddle with that. Then I had to register on the insurance company site that provides me the Medicaid insurance. Then I had to register the website of my doctor, who was fine, but there are no doctors up. I live up actually near, the cathedral, up not far from Friendship Heights, where your studio is.
That's
there
right.
aren't any Medicaid.
Well, and then you haven't even used your health care yet.